3, 2, 1, let's go. Hi everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of Boring JavaScript. I'm your host, the Virtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and today we're going to be talking about the set object in JavaScript. Now, a set is a collection of objects. This object can be strings, numbers, booleans, functions, other objects, other arrays, other sets, for example. It can be any type. But the key with a set is that each value that you put into the set must be unique. And this allows for a very efficient way of processing that entire collection. Want to see how it works? Let's get started. The first thing I want to show you is how to create a set and how to add items into the set. To create a set, you simply issue a new set, and that will assign, in this case, to a variable called animal set, an empty set. To add items into the set, all I need to do is to use the add method, and that add method will take just one argument, and that will be the item to add. And again, remember, you can add anything. It could be a string, a number, a boolean, another set. It doesn't really matter. Any type you can add. So what I've done here is I have got an array of 9 different items, and I'm going to go through a quick little for each loop here to iterate over it and add that animal into my animals set. You want to see how that works? Let's take a quick look. Let's go into Node and type in Node add. Sure enough, there you go. I have now added all of the different animals from my array into the set. Now, is that the only way to add items to the set? No. In actuality, if the items you want to add in are an iterable set, for instance arrays, you can add it all at one time by passing it in as the constructor. Let's take a look at some code to show you how that works. So I'm going to first comment out what I have here before, and I'm going to magically bring up something else. Very simple little two-liner here. Now, instead of iterating over the entire array, I am passing the array as the argument to the set object as I create this new set object. And this, since the animals is already an iterable array, it will automatically populate set with all the animals. You want to see how that works? Let's take a quick look. Let's flip back over to Node. Let's clear the screen off here, and let's go back to add. Sure enough, I got exactly the same thing, is that I have automatically added in all of those items that were in the array. So that is a way you can automatically populate your set if your object is already iterable. Now, does all of the items within your set have to be the exact same type? No. As I said before, they can be any type. Let me show you something here real quick. Let's take that code back out, and let's go back to this other piece of code. And I've done the same thing here, but notice I've now added another item, and in this case I'm adding an entire object. Now, if all of the set items had to be the same type, this should get an error, but a set will take any type whatsoever. So if I was to run this now, let's flip back over to Node, clear the screen off. I've now got a set of 10 items, which is correct, but notice now that 10th item is an actual object. So this shows you that you're not limited. Once you've set up your set, you're not limited to a certain type. You can put in any type whatsoever and mix and match as long as you wish. And that is the magic of using a set. So what about deleting an entry from the set? Well, I'm glad you asked. To delete, you use the method called shock upon shock, delete. And delete takes one argument, and that is the entry that you wish to delete out of the set. And this entry must match exactly. So I have my original array here that I am now going to load into the set, just like I did before. When delete executes, if it finds the entry, it will return that entry into a variable, and it will change animal set, or it will change the set itself, which of course it has to, since it's deleting it out of there. So I would expect cat to be deleted, which means this will come back to be in 8 entries, and I expect this to come out to be yes, because removed animal should be cat. Let's take a look at Node and see how that works. Node delete. Did I remove the cat? I sure did, and if you notice, that cat is no longer within the set. So let me show you now what will happen if you don't have an entry in the set that you're trying to delete. I just so happen to have some code down here. Shock upon shock. And now I'm going to look for salamander. Now remember, if delete cannot find the entry, it's going to return null. So I should expect this to come back to be no, and animal set not to change at all. Let's take a look at that. Let's clear the screen off. Go back into delete. Did not remove the salamander because it wasn't there. And as you can tell, my set has not changed at all. So that is how you delete entries out of a set. Make sure that the argument you do pass to delete matches an entry in the set, and you'll be good to go. Well, how do you know if an entry is inside of a set or not? Well, that's very easy too. That is using the has method. And the has method will return a Boolean true or a Boolean false if a particular entry is in your set. Just like the delete, I pass it an argument that should match exactly an entry within the set. So I am now going to have my animals loaded back up into the set. I'm going to check for the existence of cat, and I'm going to check for the existence of salamander. Cat's in there, so I should expect this to come out to be yes. Salamander is not in there, so I should expect this to come out to be no. Let's go into node and let's take a look and see how that works. Now I'll type in node has. Do I have a cat? Yes, I certainly do, but do I have a salamander? No, I do not. So that's how you can use has to be able to find an entry in your set. So I want to take this opportunity real quick to show you a little gotcha about using the entry or using something like has or delete with the set. Now remember earlier I said you could put anything within the set, whether it be a Boolean, a number, a string, an object, or whatever, another set. But if you are using the has, you got to make sure that you are searching for the exact match of the entry. So I'm going to show you a little gotcha here. Let's clear out this code. And let's bring up some more code that I've conveniently written here. So I am now, with this piece of code here, I'm going to add in, after I load in all my animals, I'm going to add in a type salamander and a name of Sammy. So it's just a simple little object that I'm adding in. And then I'm going to use the has method to search for that object. Again, type salamander and name Sammy. So I should expect has salamander to come back to be yes. Let's go into node and let's take a look at that. Clear the screen, node has, and now what happened here? We should have found salamander. I mean, I searched for the type of salamander and the name of Sammy. Why did it come out to be no? Because that's the way objects work inside JavaScript. When I added this in, it created a new object with a type of salamander and a name of Sammy, and it pushed the reference of that object into the entry for the set. When I'm doing the has here to the same object, to this object here, it has created a completely separate object with the type of salamander and the name of Sandy. And so it is checking the reference of one object, the first object, against the reference of a second object. And of course, since those references do not match, it came out to be no. So even though I may have entries within my object that are exactly the same, that is not the same as this first one here because the reference to the particular object is different. So how do we fix that? Well, let me show you, because guess what? I have some more code down here to show you how we can fix that. Let me bring that up and move that on the screen just a little bit so make sure we can see that. So I've done the same thing here, but instead of immediately adding the object into the set, I am assigning it to a variable, and I am pushing the variable. So again, what I'm pushing here is not the physical object itself, but I'm pushing a reference to that variable. So when I use the has command, instead of searching for the object, I am searching for the variable. Since both those references are exactly the same, now I should expect this to come out to be yes. Let's go into node and let's take a look at it. Clear off the screen, say node has, and sure enough, it did find it. So that's one of the gotchas you need to make sure of when you're using things like has or delete, is that when you're searching for the entries, it must be an exact match. So if you're going to be pushing objects or anything greater than a primitive element like, or a primitive type like string or number, make sure you pass the variable and not the object itself. You do that, you can search for anything you want and you will never go wrong. Finally, I'm going to show you two ways to iterate over the set. The first way is to use the for of, and the for of is real simple. It will tell you that, hey, if you have an object that is iterable, which a set is, then I'm going to take each one of those entries within the set and I'm going to assign it to a variable. So in this case, I have the iterable set with my 9 different strings in it, and so I'm just going to print those out. Real simple, real quick, doesn't really take much to understand. Let's go into Node, and let's type in Node iterate. Sure enough, there I have all of the different objects or entries within the set. The second way is using the for each, which, if you're familiar with arrays, the for each is used commonly within the array to iterate over each element of the array. So let's go into for each. Now the for each takes a callback method as the argument, and that callback method, you pass it 3 different parameters. The first parameter will be the variable that will contain the entry. The second one is the index that will be the index of the particular entry. And the third one is the array itself, or in this case, the set itself. But what's interesting here is that sets don't have indexes. So what's actually going to happen when we try to pass or try to use the for each? What's going to go inside animal index here? Well, let's just take a look into Node and see how that works. Let's go into Node. Let's type in Node iterate. I have a cat for a pet whose set index is cat. So you can use the for each within a set. You just don't really need the index. But if you, for some reason, want to put the index in there, then what JavaScript is going to do is saying, hey, I don't have an index, so I'm just going to throw the value in there too. So you will always get the element name and the index will be exactly the same when you're using the for each. So you really don't need to use the index part. When you have a set and you want to use for each, all you need is the first argument to the for each and you'll be in great shape. So those are the 2 different ways you can iterate over a set. And that's all there is to using the set inside JavaScript. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it didn't bore you to death. Please visit us at www.boringjavascript.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or check us out at blog.thevirtuoid.com. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you later.